everyone. On behalf of Pontifical Athenaeum Jnana Deepa, Centre for Science and Religion, I warmly welcome you all to an interesting session in a very relevant topic, and that is mapping the mind, sexuality, spirituality and celibacy in the brain. As Bishop Capra puts it, science may not need religion and religion may not need science, but we humans need both. We are interested in harmonious amalgamation where brain studies help us to understand our existential issues of spirituality, sexuality and celibacy. As Plato said, love rises from the body to the beauty of the mind and finally to the vision of the divine. Today, we are fortunate to have Dr. Augustine Pamplany, CST, to enlighten us all on this important inquiry. Let us open up our minds and hearts to an evening learning, reflection and inspiration. Now I invite Dr. Augustine Pamplany and Sister Jensia, the moderator of the session, to occupy the seats on the stage. Right at the beginning, let us seek the wisdom from the above. Kindly rise for the prayer song played by the organizers.
There shall be showers of blessing. This is the promise of love. There shall be seasons refreshing, sent from the Savior above. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, precious reviving again, over the hills and the valleys, sound of a burdens of rain. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. There shall be showers of blessing, send them upon us, O Lord. Grant to us now a refreshing, come and now honor thy word.
Thank you very much. Kindly be seated. Now may I invite Brother Benedict, first year student of theology, for formally welcome this August gathering.
Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to the third seminar organized by the Pontifical Athenaeum Jnana Deepa Centre for Science and Religion. I extend a warm and hearty welcome to our Thank you, Father. We are honored to have Sister Jensia to be the moderator of the session this evening. A hearty welcome, dear sister. I am delighted to welcome the Registrar of Jnana Deepa for being with us this evening. Dear Father, you are always there to guide us and support us in all our efforts. Hearty welcome, dear Father. I also welcome our guests from far and near, dedicated faculty members, sisters and brothers. Your presence adds to our joy and we are motivated to conduct such seminars such as Science and Religion. Hearty welcome to all. I am glad to acknowledge the warm presence of Father Stephen Jayard, the Director of JDCSR, who always takes keen interest to arrange sessions on interesting and relevant topics for all of us. Hearty welcome, dear Father. Once again, I extend my warm, hearty, once again I welcome you all warmly. Sit back, get ready to get enriched by the session this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Benedict, for your warm and inspiring welcome. Every meaningful discussion needs a gentle guide, and for today, we are blessed to have a moderator who will lead the flow of conversation with wisdom and grace. It is my joy to introduce our moderator, Sister Paraloga Pakia Jensia Mary, belonging to the congregation of Mother of Sorrows, Servants of Mary, from Tamil Nadu. She is a graduate in physics. She is now doing her bachelor's degree in philosophy here at JD. She has great experience of teaching small children in Bangalore and also taking care of the senior citizens in Tuticorin. So in a way, she is very familiar with both the young and old brains. So she is the right person to be the moderator of today's session on reflecting on our brains. Now over to you, Sister Jensia. Please note, today's whole session is video recorded, so the audience is requested not to record any part of it. Later we'll upload it in our group.
It is my great honor and privilege to introduce Dr. Augustine Pamplany. He is a leading scholar at the intersection of science, philosophy and religion. He currently serves as the director of the Institute of Advanced Interdisciplinary Studies at Jnana Deepa Institute of Philosophy and Religion in Alwaye. He is also the research dean of the Xavier Loyola Institute of Interdisciplinary Studies at Loyola College of Social Sciences in Trivandrum. And further, he is the dean of the master's and doctoral program in religion and science at Global Ministries University in California. He is an active member of the UNESCO Forum of Teachers in Bioethics and serves as the regional coordinator for the MSc in Bioethics and Law program under the International Chair in Bioethics at Porto University in Portugal. Dr. Pamplany's academic path reflects his deep commitment to bridging disciplines. He holds doctorate in ethics of geoengineering, Dublin University in Ireland, and in philosophy of science from the International University in Colombo. In addition, he has earned MSc from Madras University and obtained MA in bioethics from the University of Leuven in Belgium. He also completed specialized training at Harvard Medical School and has conducted specialized research on the neurocognitive dimensions of belief at the University of Oxford and Coventry University, UK. Dr. Pamplany's contributions have been widely recognized. He has been a fellow of the International Society for Religion and Science in Cambridge since 2003 and an honorary research person at the Brain, Belief, Behavior in Coventry University.
Skillfulness of a person in a topic or field, we could say. Okay, that is part of the neural plasticity. Provided we do it with awareness, automatically doing that spoils the creativity of our brain. Okay. And some fundamental things, just to take note of those three lobes, the frontal lobe, this part of the brain, the parietal lobe, in the video you have seen that, then the temporal lobes. This, what you see here is the right lateral view, the rest we will see later. And also have a keen look at this one, this internal organization of the, especially the limbic system of the brain, which is said to be the emotional brain. Most our personality cues, traits are wired or programmed in the structure of this part of the brain. And several organs are involved in this limbic system. Amygdala, thalamus, hypothalamus, hippocampus is somehow missing here. Okay, that has been there, this area of the brain. Okay. All those regions are extremely crucial in emotion, spirituality, the understanding of sexuality, and so on. We will revisit these areas eventually, but just for your preliminary understanding, I am explaining this. Especially have a concentration on this one. Pay special attention to amygdala. If we insert a needle through the eye and the ear, the point where they would be meeting, that is where the amygdala is, an almond-shaped small organ. In both temporal lobes of the brain, there are two amygdala. Okay. And something more about this amygdala and the sexual orientation. Nowadays we discuss quite a lot about the LGBTQ orientation and so on. And this is very well informed by clinical psychology especially. Now neuropsychology also has something to contribute to the understanding of the LGBTQ debate, something informing this debate. What they basically said, the healthy heterosexual male, as for him, the connection patterns will be more widespread from the right amygdala to the left cerebral cortex. If this is my connection, regular connection pattern, I will be a healthy heterosexual male. That would be my sexual orientation. But unfortunately for me, my connection patterns are more widespread from the left from the left amygdala to the right cerebral cortex, from here to here. By nature, this is supposed to be the connection patterns for the woman. Though biologically I am male by gender, by my brain I am a woman. A woman's natural inclination is for a man, hence my gay behavior. The same applies to the woman also.
Some recent empirical surveys have shown that Indians is one of the population that watches much pornography, surpassing all the records in the world, it seems. And the way the nature of the pornography watching of the Indians is that Indians go more for Indian porn. Why is that? Because the body morphology implanted in our brain is that of the Indian man or woman. Okay, the image of the body that is deeply inbuilt, shaped by environment or perceptions, stimulus given to us, that is what is making us more, that is what is defining our aesthetic preference of our past. always prefer madam for US madam and an Indian madam. Normally our international people are the Indian madam in the States. Because that is the image of the brain body that we have in mind. Probably that explains why Indians go for Indians want more of this one. A leg amputee or an arm amputee will always prefer an amputee as his or her life partner. A deaf and dumb would always prefer a deaf and dumb as the partner, because that is the morphology of the body imprinted in the brain of such persons. Some said, it is said that frequent association between priests and nuns. No, as a priest, my natural inclination would be for a nun in habit than a lay woman. Somehow, my brain is oriented around that given my interaction or the body morphology that have implanted in our brains, going by implication. And something about romantic love first, before moving on to sexuality and ecstasy. Our brain has a nucleus, not exactly what they call the caudal nucleus, is this sheath-shaped region. This is exactly the nucleus of the brain, what they call the ventral tegmental area, VTA. Don't bother about this scientific technicality. The point is this. This is in a way a pleasure hub, the pleasure hub with the brain. The nucleus of the brain is a pleasure hub. This spring, just as a water sprinkles water all over the lawn or the garden, this region, as soon as it has a stimulation, sprinkles the happiness neurotransmitter, the dopamine, out onto several regions in the brain, including the caudate nucleus. And what are the consequences of the sprinkling of the dopamine by this VTA? Focused attention. It is in the sexual stimulation that a person is most focused in this thing. Fierce energy, sexual energy is very strong, please say, due to the excessive presence of this dopamine. Motivation to attain a reward. This is what is normally forcing people to go for rape acts or irrespective of consent, because the uncontrolled stimulus activating the reward centers in the brain. Irresistibly, I need immediately something. That is what sex is originally programmed for. Evolutionary biologists are telling us. Then feeling of elation, even mania. This is the case with romantic attachment originally. One thing that we should be noticing here is that probably you will have come across several instances of campus murders of lovers and so on, pouring acid on the girlfriend. The reason is this: since this is so elated a state of affairs due to the excessive presence of the dopamine in the brain, this same region which facilitates this elation of the dopamine and activating the reward system, this is the region that exactly facilitates hatred as well. The same region of the brain is involved in processing these both emotions. So the reversal of love can be hatred. So uncontrolled, irresistible hatred can lead to violence. That is exactly what we will see among the lovers and so on. Those who are lovers take friends once in romantic love. They become great big enemies later on. The reason is that. And the regions, not exactly of true love. Neuroscientists today have the language of the church, not in theological terms, but if theologians interact more with neuroscience, there is significant scientific secular justifications for our moral theological assumptions. For example, love, or what is the origin of sex? As of now, no scientists have solved this puzzle. Probably the origin of the sexual kind of reproduction, that is still a mystery for evolutionary biology. One reason possible is that the organisms, as part of survival, went on exchanging DNA, because in the sexual kind of reproduction, where the gamete is formed in fertilization, there is fusion of genes. Otherwise, a pathogen or a bacteria or virus can simply, same kind of organisms are produced asexually as the bacteria reproduces. Its survival is a big challenge. The entire organisms can be finished off by a single pathogen or something. Okay. Therefore, sexual kind of reproduction enhances the possibility of the survival. So studies show that life originated about 4 billion years ago. Complex organisms originated only 80 crores years ago, or 320 crores years after the birth of origin. There were only bacteria in the world. But bacteria also started reproducing sexually about 200 crores, 2 billion years ago. Since then, sexual reproduction is present in the nature. Okay. And one of the objectives of sexual reproduction is the sexual reward system activation in the brain. Not studies with mammals, animals, and so on have shown that the presentation of any kind of opposite members of the opposite sex will not activate the reward systems in our brain. Something that is personally appealing to us, just as we said earlier, the morphology of the body that we have in brain. The specific details that our brain is meeting with in the partner or the member of the other sex, opposite sex presented to us. That activates the reward system. Why is that specific activation by specific members of the opposite sex? Probably procreation. Only in those cases where procreation is assured, sustainability of the offspring is guaranteed, nature prefers such partners, it seems. Therefore, by nature, biologically speaking, reproduction is an important element of the neurology of the sexuality. As of now, scientists are taking it. But unfortunately, we know that is not the present state of affairs today. Living together. No man is only living together. Living together, no children. That becomes the trend of the time, no? But there are neurologists and neuroscientists confronting this sort of values. So, for example, you must study this author in some depth. Fred Neuro. His bestseller is The True Love. What he says, no? In romantic love, every stage of love has got its own purpose and meaning. Romantic love also is evolving stage by stage, phase by phase. The first stage of love, romantic love, is the excitement phase. At this stage, lovers, excitement hormones, neurotransmitters, there will be a flood of excitement neurotransmitters like dopamine, norepinephrine is said previously. There will be a flood of such neurotransmitters in the brain. That will last for about 3-4 years of their relationship. But that stage will not be forever. That is why honeymoon comes to an end. So after 4 years, or between 4 and 7 years, the brain will turn off this excitement being unable to carry forward with their love, looking for another excitement. But that is not what fundamentally, anthropologically, we are programmed into. That is what scientific data is. So in the 7th year, there is an itching in marital life, it is named. Couples will start itching in the 7th year. The reason? This is that. But those who have really transcended this phase also know, that is what this Pranur calls this stage of true love. They will be growing to an authentic love, state of love, authentic state of love. True love, where there will be more sharing, greater self-dependency with each other. Depth in love is achieved. But psychologists were advocating these ideas previously. Clinical psychology. Now neuropsychology also endorses this idea, which is the happiest phase of marriage. We would say honeymoon, but according to psychology, the happiest phase is the old age. Because psychology says sex is not, otherwise also we are also teaching the same principle. No? Sex is not something between the legs but between the hearts. This is the fundamental psychological idea. Given that idea, the real exchange of the hearts takes place in old age for those who have grown in higher and higher domains of love. That is about sustainable love. The present purpose, romantic love has also been found to promote satisfaction in long-term relationships. There are several sociological surveys confirming this sort of ideas. Then the happiness index of those who really got divorced and those who planned their divorce but did not go for an actual divorce, 10 years later, when their happiness index metrics were compared, those who actually planned their divorce but did not actually divorce, they were happier than those who were divorced. This is what the studies say. So this is perfectly consistent with the neurological, anatomical things that we are taking. Again, I am calling your attention back to this anatomy. I am switching back to sexuality from this love. Before that, something of this spirituality. Neuro-religion we said now. So, neuro-religion or neurotheology advocated by Angie Newberg, American neurologist, and Karen Albright, Eugene Acquis. Almost every week a new research is being published in this field, in neurospirituality. What they do, they scan the brains of Franciscan monks or contemplatives or Buddhist nuns who are very professionals in meditation, skilled meditators, and the scans of their brains as to what is happening in their brain in actual meditation that they are scanning. And see the different regions of the brain involved in the different mystical states. Nature mysticism is fundamental to every mysticism we know. We feel one with the universe. This is there in the Christian tradition or religious tradition. Response to religious growth. Cosmic unity is facilitated by the Pareto law, the activation of the switching off of the neurons in the Pareto law, because that region is responsible for our navigation, our bodily awareness. Those regions will go quiet in contemplation. Whereas this region, the neurons will be firing more, the juncture of the three lobes, the parietal, temporal and the frontal lobe. If this region is dull and inadequately developed, there is no point in preaching any number of retreats or giving meditation points to them. Because this is the barren land. This is the region that should be responding to the word of God, to language mainly. In the religious context, to the word of God. If this region is dull, the very moment we enter the church or hearing the preaching, we will start sleeping. Damage to this region. Okay. Then sacred images. Humans are programmed to see and experience God. We are not programmed to. Our spirituality should not be in the abstract. Okay. Looking at sacred images or a crucifix that can facilitate emotions. Our spirituality also is very much biological and corporeal. Why Osho Rajneesh's commune ashram is so successful? Dynamic meditation. The entire body is praying for them. In the charismatic modes of prayer we have this here, praise and worship. Finally, they say shout and pray, or dance and pray. This is scientifically informed principle, although as philosophers and theologians we may have some reservations to charismatism. But going by the fundamental assumptions that they are assuming, this is neurologically, biologically founded. Religious emotions, people go ecstatic. When the temporal lobe capitalizes the part of the limbic system, which is the emotional brain, or what we previously said about the amygdala, hippocampus, thalamus, all these things are part of the limbic system here. When those neurons start firing significantly, religious ecstasy is achieved. This is the trance state for the Buddhist monks and the Franciscan nuns. At this trance state, there is no fear. Several saints have embraced the mark, the Masuras, the fire formers was seen, they have jumped into them. There are cases of saints. Why? Amygdala, which is responsible for facilitating fear, that has been switched off in this ecstatic state. Even seeing a soul, Fultonship presents Jesus as embracing the cross when it was presented to him. The reason? That it evokes all completely different emotions in the trance state process. Then attention to the body. Let's recollect again, come back to amygdala. And some strange findings that our neuroscientists were making since the last 2 decades or something. Three concepts are synonyms for the brain, which are the sexuality, spirituality, and aesthetics. We may find them very contradictory and irreconcilable phenomena. How can the sexuality and spirituality be reconciled? Nothing wrong about that. We very deeply understand that. The same also aesthetic, as I am not explaining here. Almost the same neural wirings or neighboring wirings are used by brain for facilitating these three experiences. So this explains, even though Wordsworth may not be a mystic aspect, he is a nature mystic, not in the conventional sense. He is the nature, more than harmony is God. Aesthetics becomes synonymous for spirituality here. And some overlapping regions for sexuality and spirituality. The reward system, the ventral striatum and the nucleus accumbens. What does it produce? Pleasure, reward, and reinforcement, active in both orgasm and deep spiritual experiences. Trance state as well as sexual orgasm are facilitated by this particular region of the brain. Not just one region, don't get that impression. I am very selective here. It is said that for women in sexual orgasm, about 30 regions of the brain are involved actually. Okay. Another region. What we previously saw. What does it do? Dopamine release in both sexual reward and mystical euphoria. VGA, the other organ we introduced previously. Insula, this part of the brain. Bodily sensations with emotions. When touched upon the genital organs, this region is facilitating that perception. Okay. And this is what is active during spiritual practices also. The insula has a significant role in facilitating that aspect. And again, Andrew Newberg is one scientist, philosopher, theologian who is doing extensive research in this field. What he says now? It should be no surprise that there is such a relationship since both sexual and spiritual experiences can be referred to as ecstatic, and spiritual traditions have long struggled with the potential problems and benefit of the sexual human being. See, this is exactly what Christian theology also says we know. Even what is the So, sexuality is going by the mystical traditions. In the Indian tradition, the Rasa Leelas, the nude images of Hindu gods themselves engaged in sexual activities. We have often misunderstood those issues, but actually what it means is the bliss that is achieved by actualizing the male-female polarities within human beings. You are going to enter the holy of holies where you will be reaching in a state of ecstasy which will be exceeding the highest physical pleasure known to you, that is sexual pleasure. Sarva Bhuta Hidegataha, the word, this is what Francis specified from Father what is symbolically represented in this new religious sense of ours. Or even the artistic traditions of Michelangelo, literary tradition of Khalil Gibran, the nude drawings that is, not even a single loin cloth for any of the drawings of Khalil Gibran, no? His cartoons, you take a pause, look at them. As for the mystic, nudity is no nudity. This is part and parcel of the mystery of being, basically. Okay, this is very much celebrated in the Indian mysticism. The renowned mystical Russian novelist Dostoevsky, the way he describes each organ of Grushenka in Brothers Karamazov. But any other author dealing with such sexual details, certainly there will be sexual arousal. But here is the mystic dealing with these details in such magnitudes. But no ill feelings will be generated in the readers. Okay, because their perception of sexuality is completely different. So, the paintings of the roofing of the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo, we know, forced him to cover at least the significant parts of those nude paintings. So, the way that sexuality is understood in art and literature, also in mystical theological traditions, is something very, very positive. It is a synonym for spirituality. It is divine beauty that is represented there in also. Sex is considered as part and parcel of the mystery of being in the mystical tradition. It is within this framework we need to appropriate sexuality and celibacy also. So when it comes to the trance state, these are the Pascal images of the Buddhist monks passing through different states, beginning with the starting of meditation, the middle stages, the final stage, for the Franciscan nuns' brains. When they come to the trance stage, almost the entire brain is programmed exclusively for facilitating this experience alone. The entire brain is programmed for facilitating spiritual experience alone. There, all other emotional traits, including the sexual inclinations or emotions, are fully subsumed within that spiritual experience. Because for the brain also there are different orders of pleasure. Spirituality is considered a higher order pleasure for the brain, which can easily subsume and sublimate the lower order pleasure like sexual pleasure. What is okay? That is a positive thing that we celebrate that we borrow from neuroscience. That spiritual, there is nothing new that neuroscience is basically telling us. Remember about the neuroplasticity I mentioned at the beginning. The more we are concentrated on a topic or focused on a subject, we become fluent in that because the neurons grow thicker and fat there. In spirituality also that is what happens. The more time we spend in prayer with awareness, this is very, very important. Mere vocal prayer will not do. Brain will only, if you are exercising saying so many prayers with no attention and awareness, this will do a lot of disservice to our brain. Okay, because what we do automatically, brain will start playing possum. Brain will switch off the regions responsible for evoking experience, automation. So probably the superabundance of prayer, that is what is harmful to us religious. Because most of us are automations in prayer. But if you have to spend as many hours in prayer with awareness, we would have been mystics already, because so much time is spent on meditation and in the spiritual field, Drivers' brains are exceptionally developed for the regions of navigation, neuroplasticity, because driving cannot be done inattentively, concentration is required. And the more the spiritual neurons grow thick within us, it will subsume the neighboring sexual wirings within our brain. So this is what our spiritual fathers, masters and novice masters and mistresses have been telling us traditionally. Only by prayer we will be able to keep celibacy. Neurology of brain also very much endorses this idea. Anatomically, that is what we find here. Because provided I dwell significantly on, say, the spiritual with awareness, the spiritual aspects, those neurons grow thicker and they subsume the neighboring wirings. That is the positive side wirings of the original wirings in the brain. What happens? When I touch the face, I feel as though my amputated arm is still there. Okay. What is this implication for celibacy? Probably is that neighboring wirings are used for facilitating spiritual experience and sexual pleasure. Okay. Spirituality and sexuality. As for us also, we have renounced one organ. The sexual organs are not active within us. But unless sublimated, brain will be hungry and thirsty for the data. Okay. Which grooves have we allowed to grow thick and fat within our brain? What is the data that we are feeding to our brain daily? So they grow thick and fat. Instead of spirituality subsuming sexuality, sexual wirings will subsume spirituality also. This convolution is the real danger. But there are no objective studies to confirm this argument. This is by implication. Okay, that is what recent researchers have also, because very less fMRI studies are conducted on celibacy. Even what they are studying as celibacy, neuroscientists are only abstinence from sex, not exactly resisting celibacy. Maybe some of us will have to leave this field later on in relation to our ministry. That is how habits are formed. Forming habits means growing the wirings thicker. That is all. So which wirings have formed habits for us? That matters. So this is the exact neural rewirings within the brain as regards Pamplany in language and literature. Then one point about suppression and sublimation. We say quite a lot about that in sexual with regard to celibacy and so on. I will just comment one point from the neurological point of view. What is suppression for brain? No? Sublimation is okay. Suppression, say, I have a sexual stimulation. Now the VAG is activated, firing of dopamine, sprinkling of dopamine within my brain. It sends the signals to my motor organs. I must execute my sexual airs. Some kind of sexual activity I will be involved in, thereby executing that. That is how normally the normal sexual course of action goes. But out of fear and confusion or guilt, I would allow my genital organs also to be partaking in this process, but there will be no sexual act as such involved. This is basically suppression. Okay, only at the avoidance of the final stage. This we know is often presented as the dangerous stage, because this is not the way the neurology is programmed to be. Whereas what would be sublimation? This is also one way brain operates. It will instigate a stimulus, send a signal, but the very moment the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for moral judgment between good and evil and so on, if there is sufficient activity in this region, as soon as this stimulus is instigated, brain there itself it will pull back that stimulus, withdraw that stimulus. It doesn't go to the motor organs. Okay, I don't go to enjoy my temptations here. Okay, then maybe we can claim as sublimation. So when I was making the spontaneous looping back of the stimulation may be called as sublimation, and the vetoing a motor impulse may be termed as suppression. So when I was making a similar presentation for a group of priests, they asked me this question: why even some holy priests are doing mischievous, unholy behaviors in their old days? Then I did not have the answer, but my later studies have given me some insight. Probably the distinction between suppression and sublimation. In old days, after the age of 40, every day some 10,000 neurons are dying out from our brain. Every day. But don't worry, we saw so many neurons are there. Only crystal memory is intact. Fluid memory only will be lost as we grow older. That is what scientists are telling you. Okay. In the old days, our moral powers, vetoing power, moral discernment will grow weak. Especially neurons in the prefrontal cortex are getting damaged. There we will not be able to control our stimulations. Not that they have gone neurotics. This is simply a natural biological development we need to key organs in sexual activity, there will be only reduced limbic activation in meditation. Stronger prefrontal regulation, this region, regulating our moral behavior. We are morally active here. We will be able to exercise more self-restraint and control as a result of enhanced spirituality. The implication for celibacy, instead of erasing sexual desire circuits, meditation strengthens the brain that helps to regulate them. This is the neurology of sexuality or celibacy, we could say. None of these practices of spirituality or meditation, even at the trance stage, no sexual wirings are erased or deleted from the brain. They are still active. That is what basically the theology of celibacy also is telling us. Celibacy is not a negation of sexuality but a transformation of sexuality. And neurology also is exactly saying that. Our wirings get transformed into higher order joys. That is what basically is celibacy. And maybe I will just conclude by presenting some findings of the empirical survey conducted by why priests are most happy. Who is the author of that book? Priesthood is the happiest profession in the world according to one Monsignor and one of the Stephen Rossett. Why priests are most happy. That is the title of this book. Okay. I found something complementary from this one. What it says now. Years ordained and I pray privately each day. The number of minutes that they pray. Say, normally after ordination, the graph of the history of the spirituality of the priest is something like a V curve. That means from the day of ordination onwards, spirituality is declining. It will be but its lowest level by the year 21, 25 or something. That is where I am now. And from the onwards, don't be disappointed. It picks up, shoots up. This is how the peak of the graph of the spirituality, we care about. And that is exactly their response to celibacy and sexuality also goes. Okay, that graph in the reverse order thing. Years ordained and growing up, I had difficulty coming to grips with my sexuality. This is what the priests are reporting. Up to the age of 30, over 30, priests have struggled with their, this only mounting and mounting over the years. But from then onwards, it is improving significantly. By the time they reach 50 and so, they are perfectly at home. They appreciate celibacy more and more. So this is perfectly consistent with the neurological test that we already discussed. I pray privately each day and I suffer from loneliness. Those praying 60 minutes a day, loneliness, the lowest degree. And those don't pray daily, the highest degree of loneliness. This is something going, nothing new about it. I support the requirement that priests live a celibate life. Okay, after ordination, up to the age of 10, no priest is endorsing celibacy for priests. But by the year 1885 and by 50, almost everybody will appreciate. No, about 70% will appreciate celibacy for priests. Just to think whether there is something in common with this empirical data, with the neurological points that we have been saying. Despite its challenges, celibacy has been a great for me personally. This is what the survey among the priests say. Most people at the end of the day are happy. Priests are happy celibates. That is what empirical studies are saying. Okay. And there are some other data also going like devotion to Mother Mary. Means that a woman's voice, it has significant role in defining our sexual identity. No? I also noticed that what priests are reporting as their devotion to Mary, that also is significantly influencing their view of celibacy. This is not exactly related to our topic, but since I found this complementarity, I just share it. Okay, thank you for your attention. Thank you.
True wisdom lies in integrating the body, mind and spirit. So we sincerely thank you, Father, for your profound thought, which help us to unite our knowledge with the wisdom
according to the stages of growth, the needs are not met. So that's how I have understood. When the sexual needs have to be met and satisfied during the younger age, when that is forbidden, when the chances are not there or whatever, then that manifests when they are 80, 90. That's how I have understood. Is it, you would like to say something?
Honestly, I must say, Father, this is the old idea from the clinical psychology that the unfulfilled needs will be poured out when the opportunity occurs. That's the old clinical psychological idea. But in the context of neuroplasticity, we must refine that. In principle, that is right. Unless our needs are sublimated, this outburst can occur in the old days. But that is not an irrevocable neurological principle. That is what neuroplasticity tells us. Sublimation, no question of outburst. Sublimation perfectly renders things possible. Therefore, it is not obligatory that only those who have passed through the stages of Garhastya and Brahmacharya, they will be become brahmacharis or sannyasis. Not necessarily. Garhastya is not an essential prelude for celibacy as far as this neurological understanding is concerned.
Thank you very much for your very enlightening words. I was very much touched by the three, you talked about those three exuality, the functions. My question to you, Father, is there any module or anything that you have planned to help people to understand these factors and therefore do something practically in their daily life, let's say formation for Indian Catholic Christian population, even others also, particularly at the younger age, onwards, let's say till the age of 40.
Yeah, very good question. Normally, Father, I cannot do much in this field. I am also a formator. Wherever I go, I preach about it and try to generate some consciousness. But I have not evolved any particular technique or mechanism as such for people to practice. Okay, that somebody else will follow up, I think. Wherever I have made this presentation, this suggestion has come up. But I am not exactly in this field. Since the last 10 years or so, I have been engrossed in the neuropsychological studies, researches. But I have not developed it as a meditation technique or a therapy system aspect. But I think our spiritual fathers will take up this suggestion.
I am still a clinical psychologist. And the moment I said, I immediately clicked, I connected with your brain. So if you can do something to be service living into the spiritual direction alone, may not be sufficient. Just a way forward. Thank you.
Okay. Well taken, Father, your suggestion. I think this area is very, very important, and I think only this sort of approaches will be convincing and transforming people in the future. This could be a collaborating network, teamwork, we can do it.
Good evening, Father. I am Savio from Paper Seminary. So, in today's world, we live in the middle of ample supernormal stimuli, right? But these meditation methods, we can see them as a kind of a spiritual technology to do this sublimation process and to redirect or to rewire our brain so that we can redirect the sexual energy to spiritual transformation, new birth and relevant civilization on that show. So if we live in like a simulacrum, like Baudrillard says, does research show that it is becoming more difficult to do this sublimation process, or is the default neuroplasticity sufficient to overcome these challenges, or do we need some like supernormal technologies to overcome these supernormal stimuli?
A very good question, Father. Actually, I skipped those slides in my final presentation. My final slide slide was something about this one. In fact, the counter reprogramming or rewiring of the brain is taking place in our contemporary culture, we must say. Especially due to the excessive exposure of the brains to habitual pornography. The impact of pornography, especially on the neural wires, is very, very deep, has got deep-seated problems, contemporary researchers are saying. So, activating that takes complete control over the entire personality of the person involved, especially among adolescents. This is regions responsible for attention, concentration, motivation. These regions are involved in spirituality and sexuality, we say. But those regions being excessively lopsided or handicapped in the early adolescent onwards to certain emotions that significantly affects the overall progress of that person. So in our culture, neuroplasticity is implemented or automatically programmed in some negative ways more, we must say, rather than facilitating sublimation. In principle, it remains there. See, and we must be really scared about the future generations also in the context of the contemporary sexual looseness. Brain is very much a product of its interaction with nature also, its environment, you know. It is said that with the industrial revolution, our human brain has undergone a small shrinkage in size because those regions responsible for motor functions were not adequately developed because machines were doing the work. Brain's size itself underwent shrinkage. Now, this computer technology, makes our brain significantly handicapped in the areas of creativity, in the organic, holistic activation of the entire brain. That region, creativity will be significantly compromised in this region. Now, in future, as a result of this kind of loose cultures, what would be probably what we consider as exceptions or loose may become the normal, but that will not be a good news for the humanity as far as the authentic understanding of sexuality is concerned. This is a real danger at stake in our culture.
Father Augustine, it was really enlightening your whole process of the brain and the amygdala, how it's working. My question to you is, we can rewire the brain today. The stimulation, especially through your eye, even EMDR, process through the eye movement, desensitization through rewiring your left and right brain. How is this connected with our growth of, interchanging of this new delivery that is coming up?
From the movement of the eyes, sister?
Yeah.
Honestly, sister, that idea is new to me. Maybe we can clarify it later. I am not familiar with that area. Thanks for bringing up this.
And thank you.
My brother Alwaye. I wanted to ask, what about the role of physical exercise in helping to sublimate these sexual desires? We talked about meditation. What does research show about physical exercise?
Undoubtedly, Stephen Rosetti's study has shown that those who have right body mass index, they are more comfortable with their spirituality and celibacy also. And this is everywhere. In seminaries also, that adaptation has already taken place like that. The new important tool employed in formation is the importance of physical training, physical education, or not exactly physical education, physical exercises also. Definitely we can understand this one. The balancing of the chemicals in the brain, that is significantly achieved. The regulation mechanisms of the brain, in order for them to maintain their real homeostasis, the balance, the equilibrium, physical exercise is foundational. So thanks for that addition. That needs itself another presentation. Okay, important.
Can I ask Father? Me. Okay. I'm Sister Joyana. And Father, I was very happy that you spoke something about marriage preparation, because there are many and the sacredness of marriage implies a lot of being faithful. Okay? Whereas men, not all men, but some men, for them, being unfaithful in the sexual aspect doesn't mean actually being unfaithful. For them, it's okay, it's just a fling, it's just a one night stand. I mean, I don't really love that woman. It's just a sex thing. Why are you so panicking? He tells his wife. Whereas for the wife, that one sexual unfaithfulness is a major thing. So can you just throw light on, in line with the aspect which you spoke of, the feminine, connection between spirituality and sexuality? Thanks.
Probably, sister, the principle of reinforcement matters here. Also, the idea of praying for some, I said no, something that we regularly do, unconsciously do, habitually do, brain turns off those regions. Brain attains a sort of automation. Committing, say, an adultery for the first time maybe evokes a lot of guilt feelings within us. But once it is habitual for someone, that sense itself is completely lost. Again, the principle of neural plasticity comes into play here. Those have grown thicker, and the brain itself is very much adjustable and adaptable to the environment. If you are carrying on your guilt feeling for long, for that reason you will become a psychosomatic diseased person. So brain itself will turn off that guilt, erase that guilty feeling from within us. We will become very much adjustable to that. That is an internal mechanism within the brain. Prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for processing the moral discernment, that has got itself adjusted to this new practice. And suppose he shared this case with his wife, and his wife has no problem. Brain will easily tune itself to that idea. Meaning is what brain cognitively appropriating for itself. Both of them together have established that meaning, and that is positive and proactive for them. Brain will very easily settle down with that.
Excuse me, brother. I'm Asisi from KLP. Actually, relating to the question which is asked by Father Singara. Today, the seminary formations and all, and the thing which we have discussed actually seems to be one of the major area which needs focus. But in the formation style we have here and now, I think there is a lack of that. And in the beginning of your slides, you were explaining brain as a machine that is unimaginable. And during the presentation, it was seeming like we can even control the nuclear wirings. So, if it is actually, is it not the peak time to think of in the seminary formations to have a great research on this in order to introduce in our seminaries a formation for celibacy through these nuclear sciences?
Very good suggestion, Father. That's very, very important. Very good suggestion. Its importance everybody admits. There is a huge research gap also in this field. Although there are as many centers, priests and nuns as there is no significant PET scan or MRI scan study done on celibate yet. The church has to lead the initiative in this field. I know there are so many clinical science research, clinical psychology research taking place in this field. And most formation programs are evolving around clinical psychologists are helping in the formation and so on. But those psychologists being also informed by this neural mechanism, that's important. But still, the idea is traditionally there. The fundamental pickup from this neurology, it is there. Sublimation is the core principle for celibate practice. Prayer is the key to being a successful celebrate priest, happy celebrate priest. This is the way neurology rediscovering that. Somehow, our spiritual theology anticipated this wisdom long back have significantly been downplayed by emotions of religious experience, trance state. One typical example, this Andrew Newberg has done on orgasmic meditation. 20 women were stimulated on their clitoris by male in the experiment. While in deep meditation, and their brains were scanned as to what is happening. Regions responsible for sexual stimulation is equally activated even in the orgasmic meditation, but the outcome of that stimulation is more along the mystical lines, feeling one with the universe. A kind of awful joy, not the lustful pleasure that they have been experiencing in ordinary orgasm. Orgasm along with meditation. The case study with the 20 women show that this comes close to acknowledging the superiority of the higher order joys like spiritual trance. So certainly, going by this principle, we can neuroscience can certainly assure that authentic sexuality or true meaning of love is soundly anthropological. Theoretically, it acknowledges and provides the practical mechanism is habitually follow, brain will naturally tune itself with that. And there are several studies about abstinence and sexuality. And as for them who have practiced abstinence, the final slide showed that the rate of activation of the limbic system and the VAT, that region, is reduced by about 50%. Even just 1 week of meditation, concentrated meditation, is helpful for modulating the activation patterns of sexuality in the brain. Studies have confirmed that, but not among celibates, but those among yogis and so on. Those surveys were conducted. So, anthropology is sound about sexuality and spirituality.
This is Sciene and Religoin. Yes. I will be the last question. Father, you asked us to reduce the amygdala's function, by which we can suppress or not suppress, we can reduce our sexual urges. By reducing our amygdala's function, will it lead us not to be compassionate towards others? Because for me, by reducing the amygdala, I will not fear for sinning. I will not fear for. But my companion will fear for sinning. Will it lead to
the last word, what is happening to amygdala?
By reducing my amygdala function, will it lead to reduce my compassion towards others?
Compassion. No, the other way around. If we, when reducing amygdala is not exactly responsible for compassion. There are neurons of empathy and compassion. There are other set of neurons. But in meditation, the more we become empathetic, although there is reduced activation of amygdala, regions responsible for empathy, compassion and so on, they will only naturally become more fat, growing, they will be establishing themselves deeper and deeper. So don't understand any of our emotions in isolation. Reduced activity in amygdala implies greater activity in other regions of the brain, which will achieve the balance or internal harmony for the brain. You will only become more compassionate and empathetic. That is what studies say. If our sexual desires are in control. Maybe one final thing.
Father, I'm Alwaye, theology student. So thank you for the presentation, Father. Two questions to ask. One is regarding the sublimation and suppression you were speaking about, and especially when we compare West and the East, especially in the Indian context, we see a lot of suppression that is happening with regards to sex. We say about orgasm, masturbation, or sex, or porn, whatever word we speak in public, we start giggling. you think? Is it like, we have to hide it, or like, even in our formation, we like, we are a little hesitant to even deal with that? Is it really needed? Because even you mentioned about the erotic sculptures of temple, and the famous classic Kama Sutra about the sexual fantasies and postures and things like that was written by a sage called Vatsayana. So, is something that kind of the suppression and sublimation, is there any relation, and also in relation to the neuroscience also? And the second thing is regarding the violence and the sexuality. You also spoke about the spirituality and sexuality, and I would like to add up to the violence part of it, especially when you mentioned about the mysticism part of the sexual nudity and things like that. Again, going back to the in that, like, now earlier, in terms of rape and things like that, it was less, and now rape numbers are increasing. So these two questions, sir, if you could respond.
I will give a very short statement. It's already concluding here. Very quick response, friend. See, first part of your question, I must answer more from a sociological and cultural point of view. Honestly, I must say I have not done my extensive researches appropriating these findings within the Indian context. But I can certainly endorse your viewpoint that in our culture, the element of suppression is significantly dominant. Okay, probably that is also a neurological principle facilitating the amount of curiosity within the brain. Okay, as regards this sort of brain, it is the regions responsible for creativity. That is what is these spiritual regions are involved in. So the quest for being exposed to nudity or pornography, that is also part of our internal quest for creativity, something that is fulfilling our curiosity. Earlier there is pain, once they are exposed to something that is fulfilling to them. In our culture, that element is not there. That's why there is so much a debate over this issue also, the sex education stuff. These phrases we have coined significantly. Now the fundamentalists have completely different approaches to these sort of things. At the same time, we need to strike a balance with the West has completely become irrational as regards their sexual morality, and the sexual practices also, the post-modernity. Therefore, we need to strike a balance between the East and the West in this regard, I would say. Then the element of violence, as far as the hate element is concerned, that is one justification for that. And there is typical neurological studies on violence, terrorism, conflict, and so on. Basically, unless the amygdala is not adequately developed, or the connection patterns from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is responsible for moral judgment, they are weak, people will not be able to anticipate the consequences of their action. That is what is leading to the birth of predatory murders. Nowadays, contemporary neurology makes a distinction between affective murder and predatory murderers. Predatory murders involves conspiracy. Their brain regions are perfectly intact, but still they go committing murder. Whereas for affective murderers, because of the lack of activity in the anterior cingulate cortex in the brain, they say. That is what is the region helping us to anticipate the consequences of their action, of our action. See, in sexual violence, this damage of the brain also can be those who are habitually exposed to excessive sexual behaviors. As for them, there will be serious handicaps within the brain, and violence can be naturally expected in that.
Now I invite Augustine then to make
pioneer or a lot of researchers in the neuroscience. And he was the one who made the bionic arm. No? Normally when we have artificial limbs, no, we cannot lift it by thinking. But he developed a system by thinking and can lift the artificial limb also. So those who are interested, you can read more on that. And it is about brain, he has not mentioned about male brain and female brain. There's a lot of research going on in that also. Female brains are here. Maybe on another occasion, we'll see how female brain seems to be more cognitively active, maybe another session. And Augustine said, when you are 40, 10,000 neurons are dying per day. Per day. So those who are above 40 can write or register examiner or controller to add grace mark. Because you cannot blame it, you have to blame your brain, right?
No, but the new embryos are grown.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, as Sister points out, now there are new researches to show that new neurons are being created certain parts of the brain. And that is why this Alzheimer's, which is responsible for forgetfulness, if we are able to take neuron from that area and put in that area where causing forgetfulness, we can try to overcome Alzheimer's. But still it is in the research stage. So before that we can apply to the register if you are above 40. And please do your PhD before 40. After that it's very difficult. Okay? And then in between many comments on pornography. Now see, many of us are counselors and so on. It can be even our own personal problems also. There's an interesting book by Gary Wilson, W-I-L-S-O-N, Wilson, Brain on Porn. How this pornography shapes our brain. And the pornography creates dopamine, but after a certain level, the brain thinks too much of dopamine is not good for this fellow. So it suppresses dopamine. And our fellow increases the time of pornography in order to reach the same level of pleasure. So it's always like a vicious circle, right? And the brain is naturally very clever, and that is why it says too much of dopamine is not good for this fellow. So even if he watches pornography, let me not produce dopamine. But our fellow insists on watching more and more. That is why when you get 10 minutes watching pornography, you get certain pleasure. Afterwards, you have to watch for half an hour to get the same pleasure. Why? Because the brain controls. Okay, not more on that. I'm going to speak now. You can read that book on brain on porn. Alright, but one basic question. He has been saying, we have been saying brain controls. The question is, who is controlling the brain? Is there any super agency? Brain shapes, brain controls, brain dominates. But who is the agency behind the brain? So that is another bigger question. That is why the brain science is always a great mystery. As the space, cosmos is mystery, it is equally mysterious to think of a brain. But of course, if you think too much of brain, you lose the pleasure. When you analyze humor too much, neuroscientifically, you lose the humor. So sexual pleasure too much, you lose the pleasure of sexuality. Alright? Anyway, so with this word, I take once again this opportunity to thank Augustine Pamplany and thank you friends for turning in large numbers. Our next activity may be a visit to Science Park in Sprituality. We'll give you the details. And there's a small planetarium also involved there, so that will be interesting. So now over to moderator for the further question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Augustine, for your valuable time you have shared with us and for the clarification. Thank you, audience, for your attentive participation. Thank you so much. We are grateful to our moderator, Sister Genesia, for guiding this discussion with clarity and depth. As a token of our love and gratitude, may I invite Brother Karthi, Secretary of the Association of Science, Society and Religion, what is the component of Jnana Deepa and the JDCSR to present acknowledgement of the philosophy. Every successful event is the fruit of many hearts and hands working together. On behalf of the organizing team, I extend our deep gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Augustine Pamplany, CST, for enlightening us with such profound insights and reflections. A heartfelt thanks also to our moderator for leading us Father Herman, all the staff members, sisters from NVSC, esteemed guests from and off the campus, and my dear student friends. Your presence has truly added grace and warmth to this gathering. A special word of appreciation to JD Media Association for beautifully capturing these memorable moments and recording the whole session for us to treasure. We will upload this on Upload very soon. So once again I thank each and everyone for your presence and for your active